Coming up on MythBusters,
our mailbag special,
starring you.
It's the fans' turn for a place in the sun.
There we go, flame!
9 seconds.
As amateur MythBusters build solar death rays.
It'll start fires like that.
And turn up the heat on Adam and Jamie.
What the hell is that thing?
It's the disco mirror from hell.
After a great song and dance, the mother of all death rays gets unleashed in this ultimate viewer challenge.
Look at that! Dude, we got smoke!
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage and Jamie Heineman.
This is gonna kill you.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
That's what I'm talking about!
Joining them, Tori Belleci.
Very excited about this.
Carrie Byron.
Look, he cracked into his skull.
And Grant Imahara.
Don't say anything.
They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
All right, so the Archimedes death ray burn-off? What the hell is that?
Well, you remember back at the beginning of Series 2 when we tested the myth about Archimedes having created a solar death ray?
I do. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Who could forget this classic myth from the classical era? In 215 BC, the Romans were about to conquer the Greeks until Archimedes saw the light. He supposedly built a giant mirror that focused the sun's energy with such ferocity that it ignited the invading Roman ships. But when the MythBusters tried it, they busted it big time. Adam built a rig of over 300 mirrors, and by carefully aligning each one, he tried to focus them all to a single, hot focal point.
Oh, bright light. Sail away.
Bright it may have been, but it was no more deadly than a flashlight.
What's the temperature, Jamie?
About 150.
150?
Give it a minute. 200 degrees.
They peaked at 290 degrees, less than half of what was needed to ignite the wood. So they resorted to something which Archimedes was way too mature for.
So why are we going back here again?
Well, there were a number of viewers that thought we got it wrong, and so what we're going to do is give them a chance to put their money and their time where their mouth is, and they're going to have to design and build and film their version of the mirror that proves us wrong.
And there's got to be two parts to this contest, too. One is they got to build a mirror that can focus and burn something at 5 feet, and another category where they've got to build something that can burn something a minimum of 100 feet away.
After receiving a deluge of angry emails, the MythBusters have set this challenge. Build your own death ray or quit moaning. On the website, they posted a set of rules for a 5-foot death ray and a 100-foot death ray. Then they waited 3 months until the shortlisted entries arrived.
Adam, all the entries are in.
Oh, fantastic.
Now what we have to do is decide who we're going to bring out here to San Francisco to do the final burn-off.
I've been waiting to see these. This is awesome. And the first one is Dan Kukas. So while we're waiting for it to load, what are the judging criteria we're going to apply?
Creative use of materials, how relative to the actual Archimedes myth they are, do they make stuff burn, how good they are at making a video.
All right, here it is. It's ready to go.
I'm 37 years old. I live in Lakewood, Colorado, and I'm a handyman.
Oh, cool. He's dressing in a toga.
That's a little creepy. I feel like I'm watching something I didn't mean to find.
For the 5-foot challenge, Toga Dan is building a catenary, a row of mirrors arranged on a chain. But can this unusual idea harness enough energy to form a death ray?
See if we can set my shorts on fire.
Like the MythBusters rig, there's a complete shortage of fire. But rather than address the issue, Dan tries something rather strange.
Today we're going to try to set fire to one of these logs as a projectile while it's going downrange at 300 feet per second.
Yeah, about that.
Wait a minute. What's going 300 feet per second?
He's apparently going to try to ignite the log while it's underway in the air.
You're pretty much trying the hardest thing you could possibly imagine, which is setting fire to a moving object when you have yet to prove that it can actually set fire to anything.
Yeah.
I just think he lacks a little focus.
And worryingly for the Mythbusters, so do many other entries. Take Doug Graham.
I'm using ordinary paintballs here. Here I am. Hi.
He ignores Archimedes and catapults paintballs at a model boat on a blue plastic bag.
Yes! Right there!
Matt Peterson does a complex build, but also fails to repeat Archimedes' feat.
Not hot enough to set that cardboard box on fire yet. We're reading about 129.6. That's pretty pathetic.
So he's out. Who's next?
Carrie and Jess.
No last names?
No.
Sounds interesting. Sounds like a DVD I wouldn't want my wife to find.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Jess. And we're the MythBusters.
So far, the entries are short on success. Can the girls do any better?
So, Jess found out that in Archimedes' mirror, he used a hexagon in the center.
Okay, come on, let's see how it works. Cut to the chase.
Like the DVDs he doesn't want his wife to find, Adam fast forwards to the good bits.
Okay, piece of wood test, excellent.
And we have a hole in the wood.
Yes, our wood is burning.
There's fire in the hole. Admittedly, they're using balsa wood rather than a slab of oak, but it's progress.
I've seen enough. They were able to get fire. They've got a nice design. They're good on camera.
They got fire, I think they're in.
Okay.
All right, here, who's next? Stephen Marsh, Brendan Milstein. All right.
Now, Archimedes, Greek philosopher and mathematician, may have been too noble for dumpster diving, but thankfully, we aren't. We found this parabolic mirror.
I just pulled out some kind of a mirror out of a box.
It looks like a beautiful parabola, but that's just a mirror in a box.
A mirror in a box it may be, but does it work?
Jesus wept. Dude, that is insane. Fire right away. That's amazing. I think he's setting fire to you first. And then he's gonna set fire to me. I gotta see this in action. I think we should bring him in.
Yeah, it was bursting into flames in seconds.
Yeah. All right, who's up next?
That would be Mike Bushrow. This one is also the only entry that we have so far in the large scale.
Well, I gotta say, I appreciate the guy putting his money where his mouth is. Let's see what kind of rig he's got here.
Mike's designed a giant parabolic mirror that he hopes will ignite a boat over 100 feet away.
First full assembly. Full-size death ray.
And for the mirrors, Mike's coating steel with silvering agent, something that Archimedes had the technology to do. It's an ingenious design with one final trick up its sleeve.
This is the focus on the primary mirror.
This looks like he's made this thing variable focus. That is the only person to attempt to make a variable focus mirror. I mean, that's something we really grappled with our rig.
But when it's unleashed, Mike gets so worried that he might set fire to the neighbor's house
Look at how bright that thing is.
that he nervously returns it to the safety of the shade.
All right, shall we throw this to the judges to make a decision?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the winners for the trip to San Francisco are Carrie and Jess.
And Stephen and Brendan.
Yes, those are in the small scale category, and in the large scale category, we don't really have much choice. It's either Mike Bushrow or Mike Bushrow. So all those five get to come to San Francisco, help us set stuff on fire for the great Archimedes burn off. I'm glad we don't have to look at any more of those things.
It's a MythBusters mailbag special. Adam and Jamie devised a challenge for disgruntled viewers to build their own death ray. And after all the entries were in, the finalists were chosen. There's Brendan from Harvard and Stephen from Berkeley. There's engineering students Carrie and Jess. And then there's polymath Mike Bushrow with his variable focus giant. But what none of them know is that they're also going to be up against the MythBusters.
Come on down to MythBusters Satellite Shack.
Adam and Jamie have acquired a giant satellite dish that they're going to turn into a mirror death ray. But if it's going to work, it has to have a perfect parabolic curve. Any bump, bash, or bruise is going to batter down this death ray's deadliness.
The closer it is to perfect, the more all of our mirrors will be pointed to the same point. The smaller the focal point will be, and the more intense the light on that point will be.
To get a small focal point, they're using 1-inch square mirrors because these tiny pieces will follow the curve better than big ones. Trouble is, they need 6,000 of them, and it's driving them crazy.
Ow.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, it takes 10 hours to glue them all.
I think that's it.
Whereupon it's time to test out this puppy.
Dude, come here. We're already seeing smoke.
Oh, yeah.
That would be fire.
That's so bright you can't even look at it.
Will any of the mailbag finalists stand a chance of beating this? Well, it's time to find out, because they're here. And first up, it's the battle of the small-scale death rays. Carrie and Jess versus Brendan and Steve. They're going to get straight to it with a preliminary test. After this, both teams will have 24 hours to hone their weapons before the final 5-foot burn-off. So, let the games begin.
Here are the rules. You'll each be given 3 materials, samples that you would find on a Roman vessel. Wood, oakum soaked in pitch, and hemp. We'll be timing you from the point you've given the materials to ignition. MythBusters, you'll be the ones calling flame. At that point, I'll stop the stopwatch.
Ready?
First up in this preliminary test,
One person.
it's the wood.
Ready, set, go.
To get flame, both teams need to find their mirror's focal point, the hottest part of the reflection.
I got it. There we go, flame!
9 seconds. Okay.
Look at that, it's like roasting a marshmallow.
Well, Archimedes would be proud. The girls, on the other hand, take more than 2 minutes longer.
Okay,
Amber.
flame, I see it.
Calling flame, Jamie?
Readjust your mirrors.
Okay, 2:45.
With this early win under their belts, the brainy boys start to get cocky.
You can't even beat our trash.
That's just something you guys found, so...
You got some rob a 7-Eleven for their ceiling mirrors.
I'd like to point out that while you're denigrating the girls, they actually built their rig.
Thank you.
That's true. I'd also like to point out that they lost.
It's getting tetchy out there, so the referee moves things on.
Round number 2, oakum dipped in pitch. Ready, set, go.
But round 2 has the same winner.
No flame!
The boys hit the spot in 9 seconds, while the girls failed to ignite the target at all. With such success, the boys' parabola looks to be the perfect death ray. But not if the target is moving. A parabola is hottest only where all the light meets, the fixed focal point. If the target moves slightly in front or just behind this, the death ray is rendered useless.
Okay, this is the next round. Hemp, and go.
New round, same story.
Flame!
9 seconds.
9 seconds. 9 seconds again.
Yet again, the boys whip the girls. Carrie and Jess will need to refine their rig big time if they're going to beat the boys' perfect parabola in tomorrow's small-scale showdown.
Well, okay, teams, That's our 3 tests for today. Well done. You have 24 hours to go and tweak your systems, get them perfected, and we meet back out here tomorrow.
But before this solar standoff, Tori's setting sail on the big scale challenge.
Tori, for the small scale experiment, we've got everything we need. We've got the pitch, we've got the oakum, we've got the wood. But for the large scale experiment,
we have to find an ancient Roman trireme.
Well, we need to find a boat. It's got to be made of wood. It's got to have spent a long time in the water because the moisture content in the water and how that's affected it are absolutely critical to confirming or busting this myth.
Last time around, Tori made a boat out of dry timber. This time, he's getting a boat that spent most of its life on the sea. It'll be harder for the death ray to ignite, but it's much more realistic.
We're not paying for this, are we? I mean, they should be paying us to get it out of their docks.
The boat's been grounded. It's got more holes than the Titanic, and may just take as long to fix.
We gotta drain it, we gotta patch it. Then another big job is taking this off and getting this vessel as close to a trireme as possible.
It's gonna need a MythBusters Makeover Special.
Yeah, got some fine sailing vessels in these slips.
With 24 hours and counting, the girls are trying to design a new array that can beat the boys' perfect parabola. It's an uphill struggle until Grant gives them a helping hand.
Contestants, attention please. We need to clarify the rules. So here off the Discovery Channel website, the rule for small scale category 1. To build any device capable of igniting the target at a distance of 5 feet. You now have 21 hours to make sure that when we test again, you can ignite your target at a distance of 5 feet. That is all.
It's bad news for both teams. To avoid disqualification, they must scrap their rule-defying mirrors and go back to the drawing board, where the girls already have a plan.
They came up with a really clever idea to try to just warp a single mirror just slightly, about 1/8 of an inch, so that we can get a focal point of at least 5 feet.
By carefully bending a mirror with a screw, the team is able to get a parabola with a focal point at exactly 5 feet. But does it generate any heat?
Oh, dude, look at that. I'm hitting over 300 degrees. Woo!
All right.
It's a good start. And by adding another 15 mirrors, they may just win this burn-off yet. The trouble is, the boys think that they are also onto a winner.
If you take a vat of liquid and spin it, the liquid surface will become a parabola. So if we spun plaster until it dried, we could, in a vat this big, we could get a 2-meter diameter parabolic mirror.
Brendan's putting a new spin on things. When liquid is spun, the surface forms a natural parabola. So by spinning liquid plaster at a specific speed, the boys hope they'll end up with a parabola with a focal point at 5 feet. It's a nice theory. But getting the focal point to be precisely 5 foot away is going to be pretty tough.
This parabola is going to need to be really flat in order for the focal point to be pretty far away. But it looks pretty flat, so I'm hopeful.
As the clock counts down, have the boys bitten off more than they can chew? It's a MythBusters mailbag special. And Mike Bushrow, finalist for the Big Scale Challenge, has just arrived, and his rig will follow shortly.
My mirror, the Sword of Archimedes, is so big I couldn't get on the plane, I couldn't get it in my car, I couldn't rent a truck big enough. We have to have it specially shipped down here, and I'm really waiting for it to arrive so I can show it off to Adam and Jamie.
But before any big scale showing off, there's just an hour left until the final small scale burn-off. And both Brendan and Stephen and Carrie and Jess have been working flat out to get their mini death rays up to speed.
I think the new rig is going to do awesome because we're already lighting stuff on fire with one mirror focused at the correct focal point, and as soon as we get the other 15 there, then it'll start fires like that.
And after 15 hours, the boys' plaster parabola has set. been lined with a reflective foil, and is now ready for a temperature test.
There's definitely heat, but it's more like the heat up a sandwich kind of heat. 109 degrees, 111.
That's not that great.
While Adam desperately polishes it for more power,
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Brendan and Stephen have had a last-minute brainwave.
We're going to create a slight vacuum in this steel drum, and then that, if we put Mylar over that, should form a parabola also.
By carefully controlling the pressure of the vacuum, they should be able to adjust the focal point to 5 feet. It's ingenious, but way beyond Archimedes' technology. And now, for both teams, time's up. For the final small-scale burn-off, it's seconds out.
Ready, set, go.
It's round 1, the wood. Remember that this time, the burning needs to take place at exactly 5 feet, or the rig will be disqualified.
5 feet, keep going, keep going, keep going.
And the boys are in hot water.
60-inch mark.
It's not gonna work, Grant. Our parabola is not shallow enough. The focus point is way closer than that.
Sounds like they're forfeiting. They can't burn anything at 5 feet, so it looks like we're gonna win.
Oh, come on.
The girls' rig may be legal, but it's not that effective.
Looks like that.
They're getting a lot of smoke, but no fire. And while they wait for ignition, the boys, to avoid disqualification, are switching to their ingenious Plan B. By adjusting the pressure of the vacuum, they've pinpointed their focal point to exactly 5 feet. But like the girls, there's only smoke signals. Given the perfect conditions, can there really ever have been a death ray? The contestants in San Fran are struggling using the hottest midday sun, which was not an option for Archimedes because Syracuse faces east. So he could only have harnessed the much weaker sunlight at dawn. It's a nail in the coffin for this myth. With no fire so far, it's time to up the ante.
What the hell is that thing? It's the disco mirror from hell.
Adam's even more cocky than the boys' team. Will his array finally turn the heat up on this myth?
Okay, teams, next round, Oakham and pitch.
Rather predictably, the professional MythBusters get fire pretty darn quick.
Flame, I see it.
That's great, Jamie, but I'm sorry you're disqualified. It wasn't at 5 feet.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about the 5 feet.
Yeah,
when
5
we
feet
built it.
wasn't a rule when you told us to build this a week ago.
5 feet.
Actually, it was. The MythBusters forgot to check the rule book and are eliminated. But just when their challengers get this lifeline, the sun goes behind the clouds. Another major problem for this weapon. Would Archimedes have built a weapon that could be rendered useless by cloud cover? It's another nail.
This test is hemp. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
It's the final decider, and with no fire so far from either team, the pressure's really on. The girls' more traditionally built rig is generating a lot of smoke, but just when it's looking good, the boys take the checkered flag.
We got flame. Flame!
Their vacuum pump Mylar special does the trick, and just in time as the clouds roll in once more. It was a fair fight, but now it's all down to the judges.
Your challenge was to build a device capable of igniting your target at a distance of 5 feet. And based on creative use of materials, excellent scavenging ability, we find that the winners of the small-scale burn-off are Brendan and Stephen. Congratulations.
Worthy winners. But to test the myth thoroughly, it's time for the big guns.
Great.
So while the judges felt that Jess and Carrie put in a really good effort, Brendan and Stephen were more in the spirit of MythBusters.
Yeah, but dude, that is what has me totally jazzed about moving into the large-scale aspect of this myth. Mike Bushrow's super innovative and very authentically built adjustable focus parabola. I mean, we're really going to get down to some critical aspects of whether or not this was totally possible.
Archimedes was such a mastermind that it's going to need a genius to emulate him. Luckily, Mike Bushrow is just that. After all, he's a rocket scientist. He works the cameras on a spacecraft that explores Saturn's moons. So if anyone stands a chance of probing this myth, it's Mike. But when his big rig finally arrives, there's an even bigger problem.
Oh no. It's broken.
The freight company is going to get 7 years bad luck because Mike's mirror is busted.
I worked really hard to get a chance to be here and show my stuff off to Adam and Jamie. Now, I don't see how I can possibly do it. Because it's so trashed, it's not going to showcase what I was able to do before it left. It's ruined.
Given that this was the only entry in the big scale challenge, the team is now going to need a miracle.
Once mighty warriors, now a broken wreck.
The MythBusters have had a mailbag setback. Mike Bushrow's ultimate solar death ray has arrived battered, bruised, and maybe beyond repair.
We could put the pieces back together again and we can make it look nice. But there's no way it's ever gonna set wood on fire.
It looks like the only entrant in the large-scale challenge is down for the count. Until the MythBusters get lucky.
In an amazing bit of serendipity, very recently an MIT professor and his students, inspired by our very efforts, successfully used 129 one-foot modern silver mirrors to set fire to a replica Roman trireme at a distance of 100 feet.
Sure enough, it seems these brainy bods got their death ray to work. MIT understood the problems of the parabola, so used a different approach. They took less than 10 minutes to aim 129 glass mirrors at their oak boat, and moments later, MIT's stunning success suddenly puts this myth back into the realm of possibility.
Feasibility estimate confirmed.
What this does is give us the opportunity to work with them to revisit this experiment in its entirety on perhaps the largest and most accurate scale that's ever been attempted.
We've invited them to come to San Francisco and recreate the experiment, except they're going to be using a real boat as a target, they're going to be using bronze mirrors, and they've got to be able to create an open flame on the boat at the distance of about a bow shot, which is what the original death ray was supposed to be able to do.
Wow.
Holy.
For this ultimate revisit, MIT wants the MythBusters to build 13 mirror-holding stands. The 300 bronze mirrors will each be slightly warped, which should ensure that their reflected beam does not dissipate with distance. It's going to be a big build, but Jamie and Adam are more than happy to do it.
This design comes right from the guys at MIT, and I have to tell you, to the guys at MIT, I thank you, because this is a rare day where I get to come in and just build something from someone else's drawing, and yeah, gotta say, it's a sheer pleasure.
Good job he's enjoying it, because there's a lot to do. But Adam and Jamie aren't the only MythBusters preparing for monster mirror mayhem. Carrie is also busy polishing MIT's mirrors.
When I started polishing the bronze, I didn't realize there was 50 of these panels.
That's over $2,000 worth of bronze. This is one serious experiment.
This is my second one in my third hour. This one's only half done. It's really 1.5 in 3 hours.
It's a time-consuming process, but why are they using bronze anyway?
One of the critical factors in looking at the possibility of this myth is the history of mirroring.
Mirrors of the period were always polished metals, primarily bronze.
There is evidence that they were able to silver some of these polished metal mirrors, but there is no mirror excavated from Archimedes' time much larger than a hand mirror.
Yeah, and the first attempts at plating the backside of a piece of glass wasn't until, I believe, around the 16th century.
And large, optically consistent mirrors, as we know them today, those did not come into production until the early 19th century.
So the historical evidence would suggest that Archimedes would have used small bronze mirrors, if he used mirrors at all.
So Carrie's hard work is ensuring that this test is as authentic as possible. And while she polishes for the professors, Grant and Tori are about to embark on a MythBusters makeover special. They need to convert this boat into a Roman trireme for the MIT burn-off.
What, that's the boat? That's it. What do you think? You love it? It's in good shape, right?
Actually, no, but that's all about to change. With some heavy-duty chainsaw action, it's not long before she goes topless.
Hey, convertible!
Slowly but surely she gets stripped down piece by piece, until after 4 sweaty hours, there's only one thing left to do.
Well, we've been avoiding it all morning, but it's time. We need to tackle the toilet.
Can I have a little privacy here? I mean, really? Jeez.
Modern mirrors, like at this California power station, can harness the sun's energy. But over 2,000 years ago, could Archimedes have used mirrors as a weapon? Well, it's thanks to MIT that the MythBusters may just find out.
Hi, I'm David.
I'm Barry.
Nate.
I'm Pete.
Mika? Stacy?
Yes, one.
You guys always dress like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
All the time.
But how did these fashion gurus get involved?
I saw the myth attempt on the MythBusters a couple years ago, and while I was sitting there watching it, I did a quick back of the envelope and thought, should be able to get this to work.
And sure enough, using modern mirrors in Massachusetts, they got ignition. But this myth is about what Archimedes could do, and for him, glass mirrors were a no-go. So this time, MIT are using bronze mirrors. But for a backup plan, the shiny death ray won't be the only weapon come experiment day.
Grant, we have something we shall call Project X for you.
And what exactly is Project X?
We know from historical accounts that Archimedes had in his arsenal weapons that were effective over at least the distance of this supposed burning mirror. And specifically, we're thinking about a small-scale one referred to as the Scorpion.
So you want us to build this in 2 days?
Yeah, what's your problem?
Okay.
That's a standard schedule, man. Get on it.
The Scorpion, or ballista, is a torsion catapult. Like a giant crossbow, it had a range of well over 600 feet, and it's down to Grant to build one in time for the big-scale burn-off. It got its power through torsion springs, which in Archimedes' time were made out of something rather unpleasant. Tori and Grant think this is bull tendon, but Carrie's about to spring a surprise.
That's not tendon.
Here, grab that other end.
What is it?
Penis.
This is the bull penis?
Come again?
This is...
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's penis.
No.
That's a long, thin penis you got there.
A long, thin, and springy penis is, according to Grant, ideal. But will it work?
Hold that side. I'll hold this side.
All right, there you go.
Wrap your side up a little bit more like that. Good.
All right.
Perfect. And that's
looks
what
like
it's
it
going to do.
The bull privates should do the job. But to increase their strength and elasticity even more, a bit of brain power is needed.
Dang! I'm gonna make brain milkshakes today.
drains contain a natural emulsifier that, when spread upon the bowl members, should make them more stretchy.
So you just want to get a nice coat on the dried bull unit, because the more you put on, the more elastic it's going to be.
And after a few hours of curing, the stretching can begin. The more stretchy they are, the better torsion springs they'll make.
Oh, God, what did you do? It's like you snotted on him.
You know, I'm sure no one's going to notice if you guys wanted to borrow them this weekend.
Oh, see you later, Tori. Your brains and penis smell way too bad to stay out here. It's disgusting. I can't believe it's doing that.
While the torsion spring catapult gets sprung, Adam and Jamie are getting ready for the ultimate experiment at the docks.
Horrible in here.
Over the past 48 hours, the MythBusters have built every single part of the MIT's monster death ray rig. And now they need to assemble it all together.
First one's up.
Fortunately, the rest of the team soon arrives.
Hey, look, there's our guys from MIT.
Fresh from their polishing, the MIT crew have come to help set up the biggest death ray reconstruction in history. And what's more, by using only authentic materials in their rig, MIT have ensured that this test is completely compatible with what Archimedes could have done, something that previous scientists have not been so concerned about.
You know, there's a long history of people trying to replicate the myth of Archimedes' death ray. Now, the first one that we know of was attempted by the Comte de Buffon in 1747. He used 168 glass mirrors, and he was able to burn wood at a focal length of about 150 feet.
Well, in 1973, Dr. Ioannis Sakis, a Greek scientist, was able to do the experiment using 60 sailors holding 6-foot by 2-foot reflectors, and he was able to get ignition at 160 feet.
Well, wouldn't that suggest that there's some validity to the story?
Yes, it proves that you can ignite timber using reflectors, but in the case of Buffon, it was a piece of wood coated with creosote. In the case of Sakis, it was a piece of plywood attached to a rowboat.
Yeah, none of them were realistic targets, and they were all stationary.
Exactly.
The MythBusters target, as converted by Grant and Tori, is going to be stationary.
Oh, wait, I see a problem.
But it's much more realistic because its timbers are thick, covered in tar, and wet. The boat spent its life on the sea.
Check out Jamie's new pet.
With the boat towed into position, it's almost time for its baptism of fire.
For me to call this myth plausible, I need to see this weapon work fast enough and harness enough energy to set fire to this boat in the water at the farthest distance we can place it.
After those words of wisdom, it's time to turn up the heat. As MIT make the final adjustments to their death ray, they get an unexpected bonus. Mike Bushrow's giant rig has been raised from the dead and will join forces with the MIT array. With the sun powering down at midday and Jamie rocking the boat in the hot seat,
I come in peace.
This myth can finally get cooking. Did Archimedes really build a solar death ray? The MythBusters and MIT have joined forces to test this classical myth once and for all.
First step is I'm just going to adjust the aiming mirror, so don't start aiming quite yet.
Professor Wallace is going to position the aiming mirror on the hull, and then all other mirrors will be aligned to that.
These are bronze mirrors at 140 feet. Let's start aiming now.
And they're away. Both speed and precision are vital for this myth. The smaller the bright spot on the boat, the hotter it'll be. And the faster they do it, the more realistic are its weapon capabilities. But 5 minutes in, and they're still aiming.
The Romans are advancing. They're within 100 feet of the walls. We got our aimers ready. Come on, slaves, let's go!
Protect your masters!
After masterful Adam's pep talk, the last stands are soon positioned, and their effect is obvious.
Look at that! Dude, we got smoke!
Big time, look at it coming off the bow. That's a good sign.
Well, it's sizzling and cracking pretty good.
You can definitely see a coal black spot right in the middle. It's sizzling. This is awesome. You looking good, MIT?
The boat's getting cooked. It's bubbling, spitting, and smoking. But there's not quite enough heat for ignition.
Well, you know, they say where there's smoke, there's fire, but I don't see any fire yet.
To raise the power of the ray, the team realigned the mirrors to dial in the focus. And the temperature rockets another 50 degrees.
We're up to 450 already.
But it's still just smoke and mirrors. It's either the bronze or the wetness of the wood, but so far MIT can't repeat their car park cook-off.
You need a bit of help. What we want you to do is reposition the boat so that we can get another pass at the part that we've really charred. So what you're saying is that staying still isn't good enough? We actually have to move the boat for you into the line of fire? Shut up, you lazy Roman pig, and do what you're told.
With the boat repositioned, there's yet more charring, but flame remains elusive. Given that the target is stationary, the weapon's hardly nuclear.
I see a little smoke, but I've seen worse than that before. All we need to do is move a few inches.
If this amazing array can't light the stationary boat, could Archimedes really have set fire to a moving fleet of 60 ships? With only charcoal so far, the team decides to try the sail.
Can everyone see the spot on the sail?
According to many viewers, the sail is the most obvious thing to try to ignite. But as the mirrors get aligned onto it, there's not even any smoke. Because it's white, the sail reflects much of the heat, and because it keeps moving in the cooling breeze, the death ray beam never focuses perfectly on it. So viewers who are fans of sails are busted.
We have about 20 minutes left of the right amount of sunlight for us. 2 o'clock is our closing window. As soon as I'm done talking about this, we're going to flip all these windows and go right to silver, use the modern mirrors, and see if we can get some flame.
It was modern mirrors that worked in Massachusetts, but on a target that was dry. So back with the sodden ship, it's down with the sail and out with the bronze, as regular mirrors get their trial by fire.
I can tell already that there's a lot more smoke coming out, and they're not even all focused on it yet. Plus, these guys are getting better and better at drawing in the beam.
This time there's plumes of smoke because the modern mirrors are around 20% more efficient than the bronze. But frustratingly, there's still no flash ignition. So what does our NASA genius think?
I'm beginning to doubt that Archimedes actually did it because it's not known at his time that it could be done, and it's a big leap of faith to go way out to try and do this hard work, not knowing that it will succeed.
And after more than an hour, this record-breaking rig hasn't succeeded. Which means that this myth is looking increasingly shaky, particularly when coupled with a history lesson.
You know, Adam, one thing a lot of people may not realize about this show is that we always back up investigations in a myth with documentary or historical evidence, and in this case, there's almost none to be had.
The earliest and probably best account we have of the Battle of Syracuse was written by Polybius, who wrote during the lifetime of soldiers who actually fought in the battle, and never once mentions fire or burning mirrors.
Yeah, and the first mention of the use of fire was by Lucian, but that wasn't until 300 years later, and there was no mention any place of the use of mirrors. It was just fire.
Well, the very first definitive mention of burning mirrors in the Battle of Syracuse was written by Anthemius almost 800 years after the battle, and it's his description that got expanded on in the 12th century and eventually became the story we know today.
The history books. Another particularly big nail in this coffin. Back at the dock, time is running out.
In terms of sunlight, we're now heading into the region of the day where it'll be starting to fall off. We probably really could get another shot in after this, although we're hitting the diminishing returns.
With one shot left, the team decides to go for broke.
Okay, can you bring it in to 75 feet, which is half the distance?
Having the distance will significantly boost the power of the beam. And seconds after all the mirrors are aligned onto the charred boat,
Flame! No!
at last, they have fire.
Congratulations! That's great!
We'll call that a success.
It's been a valiant effort by MIT and the MythBusters. But remember, the myth is not that sun-reflecting mirrors can cause fire, but that this principle was used by Archimedes as a weapon.
If you wanted something that would, like, just set fire to a boat immediately, it would have to be maybe 4 or 5 times the size of this thing.
That's right. So you have a lot of people that are good
1,200, 1,500, 3,000 mirrors.
So a death ray could just work, only with many more mirrors and aimers. Surely a waste of resources. Especially given the alternatives.
I think we can all agree that the burning mirror, it's hard to use. There's a lot of aiming involved, it needs a lot of people, takes a long time. So we built something that we know Archimedes had in his arsenal at the time.
And now we present the Scorpion. You ready to see it in action?
Let's see it in action.
All right, you guys ready?
You guys brace yourself for the power of the Scorpion.
In Archimedes' time, this catapult got its power through animal sinew. But for health reasons, Grant and Tori have been forced to use nylon rope springs instead. And once tensioned, they're going to fire arrows coated in Jamie's secret recipe, flammable goo.
Okay. It's all yours. Everybody else out of the way.
It's the moment of truth.
Ready! Aim! Fire!
Grant, if I was on that boat, I'd be more afraid of some guy with a rock.
Now do you see why the Romans were so terrified?
Can I ask one quick question? Is that supposed to have been his more effective weapon? We have a fire out there at least.
Yeah, I know.
But it doesn't take long for Grant to make amends.
Ready! Aim! Fire!
And from there, it's hit after hit. Yet the boat still refuses to burst into flame.
About 20 more of these and that thing's going up.
That's just too many for impatient Jamie, who takes the matter into his own hands. At last, some proper fire. According to the history books, Archimedes' catapult could have chucked such a fireball over 600 feet. Even a humble archer like Tori can fire an arrow over 300 feet. Alternative means of attack, whether a catapult or an archer, must be the final nail in the coffin for this myth. The MythBusters and MIT put in a brave effort, but found their fiery death ray to be just too impractical. And as if to prove that point, the wind kicks up to terminate the experiment for good.
The large-scale rig that we built with MIT was stunning in terms of giving us so much more knowledge about whether or not this thing was possible. I was amazed at the efficiency of the thermal conductivity of the bronze, and I think it really can ignite dry timber at a distance.
I'm sorry, I don't agree. We had a stationary boat. We had a distance of less than a bow shot. We didn't get open flame created from bronze mirrors. I think it's busted.
And then on top of that, there's the historical evidence, which there's none. I mean, they don't even talk about fire for another 300 years, and then another 400 years they mention mirrors, so it looks like this one's busted.
I agree, it's totally, completely busted. Although I don't expect to stop getting emails about it. I mean, this is one of those stories that's too good to not keep telling.